Okay, so you know whatever's going on with Jimmy Kimmel, this has sparked a lot of outrage from both sides, and for good reason as well, because he was pressured out of his show, and now he's trying to get it back. But what I find interesting is that like a lot of other people are out here, giving their opinions on it, and I'm actually very curious to explore a lot of these opinions because I'm very curious to see what people are thinking about this. So let's start our little journey, right?
My only issue with Jimmy Kimmel and this whole brouhaha he finds himself inflamed with is not that, oh my God, you can't say a joke. I am incredibly alarmed by what appears to be our First Amendment rights being attacked.
So very quick, I just want to mention, because he's talking about freedom of speech and how it's being impeded by people in power. Let me tell you something, okay? Because I know that people are going to make the argument and say, oh, well, no one's impeding on Jimmy Kimmel's First Amendment right because nobody's suing them legally. Bro, no one's talking about the legal definition. And I can't believe I have to even bring this up because there's still people who believe like that we're still talking about the legal aspect of it. Like this person right here, Jay, this is what he said. Okay, so the Trump administration is locking people up for their speech. And then like he's like kind of questioning it, like, really? Like, at least that's the interpretation I'm having. There is only legal free speech. See, this is what I'm talking about, that people are still making this argument. There is only legal free speech. We're talking about the social aspect of free speech because unfortunately, there's still free speech that's unwritten in the laws of the land. Okay? I don't know why he's pushing a social misunderstanding, which that's not a misunderstanding. We all have a tacit understanding of social free speech, of what free speech is. There has never been such a thing. This guy's only talking about legal free speech. I'm not talking about legal free speech. I'm talking about social free speech. The free speech that everybody can go out and discuss what they want. And I have been a person that has been saying that the consequences that we face in society today are so much more spectacular than they were in the past, because now if you get out of line, especially with the narrative that's being told, if you deviate from this narrative, you can either lose your job, you can heavily impact your family if you're the main source of income, you can ruin your reputation, people might not want to do business with you. That's the kind of freedom of speech I'm talking about. The freedom of speech that doesn't have to do with the legal aspect of it. If you guys want to get super technical, if you want to talk about only the law aspect of it, the legal aspect of it, then this video is not for you, man. So I just really want to go ahead and make that absolutely clear once again. And I have to make that absolutely clear because holy crap, man. The fact that like there's people out there that still believe that this is some sort of social misunderstanding. I have no idea what this guy is talking about.
Nexstar has to adjust. All these broadcast corporations have to adjust. Madison Avenue has to adjust. Wall Street has to adjust. Corporate America has to adjust. China's had to adjust. Mexico has had to adjust. France, England, Germany, everybody has to make an adjustment.
But that's the problem, man, that like we have to always adapt our language to what the current climate is, the political climate. And we can't speak freely about anything. And to me, that's a big problem because I don't want to have to adopt new language just so it can fit in with the current climate. But not only do I have to adopt new words, new sentences, or new ideas, I also can't talk about what I want to talk about. During the Biden administration, I couldn't even talk about transgenderism without feeling like I was going to be under attack. Also, I felt like I couldn't make a mistake whenever I was making a video because I felt like I needed to present every single fact. And if you guys take a look at my videos from that time, from that era, during the Biden administration, like I very rarely ever gave my opinion. It was always just fact-based or what I found online because I didn't want to give my opinion because I felt like I was going to be under attack. And I thought that when this administration came into power, I thought that I was going to be able to say whatever I wanted. Like I felt it. I felt like I was going to be able to say whatever I wanted. But then, it resulted in this, where now we have to be careful about what we say, and we truly can't say whatever we want to say.
How do you feel about Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air indefinitely?
It's not a good look. In the same way in which the man lost his life because of his political view, now a man just lost his job for political view.
So this is the reason he was pulled off air.
New lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Yes. He's at the 4th stage of grief, construction.
That's what they do, man. They're comedians, so they make light and make fun of stuff. Was it in good taste after the man just died? Probably not. Should he lost his job for that? I don't think so.
So really quick before I get into my opinion, I want to know, did he really get fired for that clip? Okay, so TV host Jimmy Kimmel has been pulled off air indefinitely after comments he made about the shooting of Charlie Kirk. ABC has said the decision came hours after Brendan Carr, chair of the broadcast regulator, the Federal Communications Commission, threatened to act against ABC, its parent company Disney, over the remarks. In his monologue on Monday, Kimmel said the MAGA gang was desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and of trying to score political points from it. Mr. Carr said Kimmel was appearing to directly mislead the American public. Kimmel has not yet commented. Okay, so it seems that they ended up taking him off because of the remarks he made. So going back to this video, at what point do the people say, you know what, man, like, we got to draw the line here? Because I understand, and here's the thing, okay, don't think that I don't understand this. I know that perhaps there is some sort of pressure coming from the White House, especially from Donald Trump, but we'll talk about that a little later, okay? I want to talk about the people first, because ultimately at the end of the day, you got to remember, the political will is enacted through these politicians. And normally, the people are the ones who decide who get to keep their job or who's the one who gets to maintain it or what speech is. And that's why I want to talk to the people, because the people are the ones who decide what speech is appropriate, right? At what point does it become freedom of expression? When we see stuff like this or people mocking Charlie Kirk, is that freedom of expression as well? Is that acceptable within the eyes of society? Because if it is, then that's freedom of expression, no doubt, right? Obviously, there's going to be consequences, because when you enact videos or depictions where you have you're on your friend's neck trying to display or trying to reenact the George Floyd murder, people are going to look at that and say, I could do that too, which is a consequence of freedom of expression, right? But the thing is that there is much more than just that consequence of people enacting similar behavior, because there's a lot more that's going on than just the fact that people are going to imitate a certain behavior. When it comes to black folks, especially when it comes to George Floyd or Trayvon Martin, there is an element of racism going on behind that. And that type of racism doesn't exactly exist when it comes to the Charlie Kirk situation, because obviously he's white. So when it comes to freedom of expression, is there some sort of boundary that we can't cross, or do we have to pick and choose? What is it going to be? Because we have to talk about this. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have this perception that we're being censored, when the reality is that, there's certain behaviors or there's certain sentences or statements that can't be uttered because certain groups are going to be affected. And another thing is that I really don't think that people really truly understand the power that we have. So before social media, we were fragmented in many ways, right? So cancel culture didn't exactly exist as much back in the early 2000s, late 2000s. It wasn't until like the mid 2010s, like 2015, when cancel culture really started to, its conception was there. When I call it the collective conscious, when the collective conscious began to go after people, people were very vulnerable to the power of these folks. And now I feel like we have gotten to the point where the collective conscious, which is us, we the people, have become such a powerhouse with so much power that we really don't wield it responsibly. When there's 63,648 people out there that are being targeted for their career, their jobs, or their family, the people could just point to them and say, go after that guy, and that person will have their life influenced heavily. That's a lot of power there, especially when they're not applying any laws or any of that stuff. Like, for them to just point and say, yeah, we're going after that guy, and just completely terminate them from their position in society, that's incredibly scary. So personally, to me, I think it's about time that we start checking our power, because if we don't, then when we don't check our power and we allow it to run rampant, people begin to develop paranoia. They begin to develop this fear. Jimmy Kimmel, he made a statement that was his opinion. It's not like he was depicting Charlie Kirk in a very terrible manner. He was just giving his opinion. People may not like his opinion, but Charlie Kirk is known for saying that, you know, disgusting speech or any other evil speech like that, I'm just paraphrasing, is freedom of expression. That's free. What did he say? So this is someone quoting Charlie. Given that we're talking about Charlie Kirk, I thought that I should give Kirk the last words. Keep America free, he said earlier this year when pushing back against limits on free speech. You should be allowed to say outrageous things. Now, I know that he continues on and says, you know, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it's protected by the First Amendment. Now, I know that when he states this, it adds like this legal aspect to it, which I'm not talking about the legal aspect of it. I've already mentioned it a couple times here. I'm talking about just the general idea of freedom of expression. Like, you know, we have to understand our power and what that means to us, because we understand the boundaries of the First Amendment when it comes to what it's supposed to do, its purpose in the legal landscape, but we don't understand the social landscape of freedom of expression or, you know, freedom of speech. That's what we need to understand, because the boundaries are very flexible. It's not rigid like it is in the legal landscape. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys decide on that. You guys let me know what you guys think about that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Yeah, I'm pretty much done.